The views expressed are solely those of the speaker and not necessarily those of Paltalk.com, AVM software, or its advertisers.
News Talk is online. News Talk Online is a production of Paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the internet with more than 4 million unique users, on demand on iTunes, on demand on YouTube, and on demand on my blog, Gary Baum. I meant to send the link to you and I shut off my microphone. GaryBaumgarten.com, where you can post your comments, whether you agree with yours truly or not. No retribution. And thanks to our good friends at CRN Digital Talk Radio, we're syndicated to an additional 12 million households. I am your host, Gary Baumgarten. Welcome to the show. Well, we've discussed this issue before on News Talk Online on paltalk.com, but it's such a serious matter, we have to revisit it periodically. I look for excuses, actually, to bring this one up. The issue is malaria. A lot of people don't know because they live in the Western world where malaria isn't an issue, that it kills more than 1 million people every single year. There's a shortage of drugs to fight malaria. That's causing some concern in some areas of Africa. Researchers in the United Kingdom have discovered that mosquitoes have developed a resistance to some pesticides that have been used against them. That's where pesticides are allowed, which it's just ridiculous as far as I'm concerned that there's more concern about the environment than human life. Charities in all areas are seeing a decrease in donations due to the downturn in the economy, of course. Here to talk to us about the ongoing fight against malaria is Richard Tren, a friend to this show, director of Africa Fighting Malaria. Richard, welcome back to News Talk Online on paltalk.com.
Thank you very much. It's great to be back here.
Well, it's great to have you. So let's go down these issues that I've talked about. I know there are a bunch more that you have on your mind that you want us to get to, but is there a shortage of drugs in some areas of the world?
Well, there are certainly stockouts in many areas, and at the moment some countries like Uganda at the moment is having a stockout of drugs. There are no effective malaria drugs, or at least as of about a week ago there were no effective malaria drugs. The US government, through the President's Malaria Initiative, has stepped in and has sent over an emergency shipment of drugs. So, you know, that's a real, hopefully they're coming to a solution there. But every year, around 1 million people, as you said, around 1 million people die every year from malaria, and around 200,000 of those deaths are completely avoidable because people don't have the right drugs. They don't, or they take drugs that are substandard, or sometimes, in some cases, even fake drugs. So there are a number of problems out there. There are stockouts of drugs in the public and sometimes in the private sector, and then there are just bad drugs. You know, and of course drug resistance.
And speaking of resistance, apparently some of the mosquitoes are becoming resistant to some of the pesticides I'm reading.
That's true. That's not actually new news. This has been around for a long time. There are a very limited number of insecticides that we have available for disease control programs, and that's for malaria, but also for other diseases like leishmaniasis and dengue and yellow fever. Most of the insecticides that we use at the moment are also used in agriculture, and these
the
overuse of these chemicals in agriculture, and you know, when you're not using it in a very targeted way, so that you give mosquitoes the right dose, and they may come across it in sublethal doses, it spurs resistance. And there's a limited number of options out there, unfortunately. You know, there hasn't been a new chemical class, a new type of insecticide. I mean, there have been variations of existing ones, but there hasn't been a new one for around 30 years because there's just no market for it. This is a big discussion which we can get onto in more detail. But
no market for it because they won't allow you to spray it.
Well, there's that. There is the programs that some programs are discouraged from using insecticides, even though look, we have insecticide-treated bed nets, which are extremely useful and being scaled up and used all around, particularly in Africa. And those are treated with an insecticide. And that, again, here's the problem. We have the same insecticide that's used to treat those nets used widely in agriculture. This is the pyrethroid class of insecticides. But back in 1997, the World Health Assembly, the governing body of the World Health Organization, met and passed a resolution that called on countries to reduce their use of insecticides. Now, a lot of that was really pressure against the very idea of man-made chemicals, just this idea that because they're man-made, because of the word insecticide, that they must be bad, and this complete failure to balance the risks that people face. The risks from these tiny insects are so vastly bigger than the risks from the insecticide, and that's whether they're sprayed on walls or treated on a bed net. And so yeah, we have a problem where there's been very little leadership from the World Health leaders from the World Health Organization. In fact, there's been in cases they've discouraged investment in this area, which is what we desperately need.
If I took one country, or you took one country, we collectively took one country, and said, Kenya, serious problem, malaria in Kenya, right? We said we're going to spray every square inch of Kenya with DDT. Would that eliminate malaria in Kenya?
Well, first of all, let's be clear about the way we use DDT is not to spray every square inch, but to spray the inside walls of houses.
Now, but what about now? Right, you're only allowed to use it inside now because of the environmental concerns. But the mosquitoes are breeding outside. They're breeding in pools of stagnant water, for example. Right?
You're right there, but even when DDT was being used around the world, and in this country, in the United States and Europe, for malaria control, it was only ever used inside houses.
Really?
It was sprayed outside for agriculture and to control agricultural pests. The reason is that it's effective at targeting adult mosquitoes. It's not a very effective larvicide. It's not very effective at killing the larvae, so it wouldn't be a very wise use of insecticide. It would probably cost an awful lot of money. And it would be, I mean, we need to deal with the realities. It would be pretty devastating for Kenyan agriculture. Even the sale of Kenyan flowers would be rejected everywhere because of the residues of DDT. Now, if we were to take a country like Kenya, they certainly could be doing more spraying with DDT and other insecticides because, you know, DDT is very effective, but we need other ones. It's not appropriate in every house. The kind of walls we have here, where you've got nice painted walls, DDT doesn't adhere very well to the surface. It's much better on mud structures, and there are plenty of those. But there are also plenty of other Western-style houses with bricks and plaster. So,